Hi YouTube, this is Keith Callaghan with another report from DriveTester.us. Today I wrote up a blog post in regards to some information I've gathered with correlation between the tower cell density of each carrier in my area and the overall RSRQ or quality. Bad quality can be due to congestion of the network and or a weak signal. The RSQ measurements itself ranges from negative 3 dB to negative 21 dB. A good quality signal is closer to zero, meaning less negative. At the end of this video, I'll explain the average RSRQ value I am seeing from each carrier, along with the number of bad plots I see for each carrier. This is values at or worse than negative 20. I'm going to show how this relates to the number of towers and the number of unique cells I see from each of the three carriers. This information is based on my travels over the last week or so in the Levittown, PA area, including Bristol, Langhorne, and Newtown, Pennsylvania, as you can see on this map. As you'll recall from my previous video, I'm running 3 Samsung phones 24/7 in my travels, basically the same number of data points between each carrier, and I'm basically plotting those results. Now I'm going to get to the total number of towers and nodes, and also the number of unique cells that I'm seeing on each carrier. So for Verizon, I've seen 18 nodes, and roughly that means around 18 tower locations and 70 unique cells. So that's a combination of cells on each of those towers. On AT&T, they have some more towers. They have about 20 towers and 79 unique cells. So they're a little bit they have more. I've seen more unique cells on AT&T than I did on Verizon. But again, this is just based on the travels I've done. This doesn't correspond to the total number of cells or bands that are in each tower. I mean, because depending on where I'm traveling, I'm not going to see around the whole tower. So I'm going to show a little bit more on Cell Mapper later on that. Now get back to the number of towers and unique cells. For T-Mobile, I'm seeing 38 nodes or 38 towers. And then actually I've seen 2 more this week based on some Sprint sites that are now allowed to communicate. Basically, my T-Mobile phone's now communicating on those Sprint towers. But even if I just include the 38 nodes strictly T-Mobile, it's almost double of AT&T and then Verizon. And I'm seeing 100 unique cells. So T-Mobile is considerably higher in regards to the total number of towers and also the cell count that I've seen in my travels. And this is, again, this points out that T-Mobile, as far as a density, from a density standpoint, they have towers in a lot more locations, at least in my area. And again, it's in a lot of suburban areas, it's the same way. And then for this subset of data, I want to show the network quality readings that we had over the last week or so, and I'm going to show the number of bad plots. So the bad plots, again, are the number of points that had a negative 20 RSRQ value or lower, or worse, basically. So for Verizon, between the 4G and 5G networks, I had about 233 bad plots. And this shows roughly the areas that I've seen those bad plots. And again, that could be a combination of either congestion or a bad signal. A lot of times what I'll do is if I think there's a dead spot due to like a bad signal, I'll go back to that location to see if during a low traffic activity, maybe I'll go later in the evening or even in some cases in the middle of the night to see if that dead spot, if it's actually a dead spot or if it was a bad spot just because of congestion. That's how I like to confirm some of that. For AT&T, I only seen 55 bad plots, and then for T-Mobile, they're roughly about the same. They were a little bit less, 52. And as you can see, AT&T and T-Mobile are the best in my area at keeping a consistent quality. When I average out the monthly values, T-Mobile usually stays around like an average of negative 10, and AT&T is actually, very close to that, either -10 or -11, and then Verizon's usually around -13. And what I'm seeing in regards to that is AT&T is very similar to Verizon in regards to tower density. They're both lower in regards to total number of towers and even the unique cells that I seen. So again, I want to differentiate between what I'm seeing and what the number of cells that are actually on each tower. I'm going to show Cell Mapper for that, but what I'm getting to is the fact that AT&T has more bands and more cells per tower than Verizon. So I think that's why I'm seeing, consistently, I'm seeing T-Mobile and AT&T kind of on par with each other in that regards. So what I want to do now is I'm going to show you a little bit of what I'm seeing in Cell Mapper. I try to zoom in to an appropriate level. So this is T-Mobile 4G, and you'll see how dense they are as far as like LTE towers. So you have, and again, they're dense. They also have, some of them only have 1 or 2 bands, and some of them have, 4 or more, but they're in a lot more areas. And also, if you combine that with what they have for 5G, you'll see also that if you just look at band 71 that's showing up here, there's a lot of new sites there. And band 41's not showing up yet, but I am seeing that in my travels. So that's adding even to this. If you look at Verizon for 4G, again, for Verizon and AT&T, I'm only going to show 4G because they're not. There's nothing getting mapped for 5G yet for those. Any 5G that they're doing is the non-standalone mode, so it's using the LTE bands. But in this case, what I want to point out for Verizon is they're not as dense in my area, and also most of their towers are only between 3 and 4 bands. But if you look at AT&T, which again, as you recall, AT&T was second to T-Mobile in the performance. If you look at AT&T, they're about the same as Verizon as far as the number of towers. But if you look at each tower, you'll see that there's a lot more bands on those towers. So if there is congestion, there's a lot more bandwidth to aggregate, to move things around to. So again, if there, it's Verizon is very similar, again, like I said, to tower density, but the number of bands and number of cells per tower. AT&T's very close. Again, if you recall the original number, I think AT&T had 79 unique cells and T-Mobile had 100. So they're very close to each other, even though they may not have as many node sites or towers. So what do you think? Do you see the correlation between the number of towers and cells in regards to quality of signal? And again, I want to point out that the signal quality is just related to the radio access network. It doesn't factor in the backhaul or the core network, which in some cases that you're going to see, if you have a weak backhaul or core network, you're going to see packet loss. You're going to see inconsistent, data quality and stuff like that. And I do see that, occasionally from T-Mobile, even though they have right now it seems like they have a superior radio network. I do see, issues from time to time with the consistency of the data traffic for T-Mobile. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you.